So you have a topic that you want to talk about that I have a unique experience with. Let's talk about that. All right, so welcome to episode 3 of the Just One More podcast. This is the third episode, right? Yes, today is Thursday, March 14th, and we're going to do things a little bit reversed. Obviously, we're not a real estate heavy podcast. We want to talk about real estate. We want to get into some of the dynamics of real estate, and there's quite a bit we want to cover in this podcast with regards to real estate, but we have a special guest. We've got Kristi Cote here, and she is with True Asset Management, which is a property management company that is under Keller Williams City View that handles a huge portfolio of investment properties. And a lot of people hear investment properties and they think naturally, okay, flips, rehab, stuff like that. That's not quite what you do. You're more on the long-term rentals, people that have portfolios, 10, 15, 20 houses, and they just let you manage them. So kind of introduce yourself to everybody and tell us what you do for True Asset.
Yeah, so my name is Kristi. I am the business development manager for True Asset Management. It's formerly known as Bridgman Property Management. That's sort of how everybody knows us. We did a little rebranding over the last year, but I have the funnest job in the world. I get to go and just make relationships and meet different people and talk to them about our company and why we're the best in town and what we do and how we can help and all of our amazing qualities. So yeah, I can't actually, I can't believe I get paid for this. It's really fun.
It's like a marketing guru for a property management company.
Yeah, yeah.
For people don't understand, like,
way of saying that I do a lot of marketing.
Yeah, the people don't realize, like, the marketing side of real estate is a blast because you meet so many different people from title companies, mortgage companies, real estate agents, but not just that, but also clients, people that have portfolios and from all over the world and different countries and continents, stuff like that. So it's actually, I have several friends that do it on the title side and they freaking love it. Like it's a blast. When talking about investors, what type of investors do you work with in terms of like the long-term rental side? What do you manage? What do you do?
Yeah. So any investor that wants to come to us and have their property managed sort of full service. Now, if they want to be involved day to day, we tend to stay away from that a little bit. But if they want full service, boots on the ground, hey, can you go out and check on my property because, I for whatever reason, the grass might be high or whatever, we'll go out there. We'll do kind of those extra little things. Any investor that you can have one property or multiple properties in your portfolio. We'll, take you on and put you on under our wing and we'll work with you.
What would you say the longest, like one particular investors like normally stay with you guys, like 10 years, 5 years?
Yeah, well, we have a couple of investors that have been with our company, with my broker, Jason, for the duration of the company, which is about 20 years. So, and literally one tenant has been in that property the whole time. 20 years renting in that property. So, with one investor. So, we tend to retain investors and what they'll do instead of sort of jumping ship, they'll just add to their portfolios. So it's really fun to watch them grow as investors or, sort of entrepreneurs. And we just continue to add to it. So it's really fun to kind of cultivate those relationships.
I've actually thought a lot about like bringing Bridgman. So Jason Bridgman is the owner of True Asset Management. He's he's a broker, right?
Yep.
So he's like a super close friend of mine. And he actually was the one that made me get into real estate. Like Shane and Clint recruited me hard. Like they wanted me to do it. And I went to his office one day and I sat down in his office and I was like, man, I don't know about this. Like, obviously Shane and Clint and I have a very different dynamic. We're very close. And they were like, you should do this. And I was like, Jason, like these dudes are like pushing me. Like they say I can do this, this, and this. And I'm like, dude, like I was in the equipment industry for several years and I was like, man, I kill it. I love what I do. Like, and he was like, I can't say so we're trying to be family friendly. We dropped some random words here and there, but
yeah,
he was
Jason's
like,
not always family friendly.
no.
You need like a sleeper button.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, he was like, don't be a coward. Like, just do it. Don't be scared. And I was like,
yes.
Like he challenged me. I was like, all right, dude, we're gonna do this. And I think it worked out pretty well. And I thought about having him on this show, but he's not very family friendly. So
right.
I'd have to put a muzzle on him.
I know.
Yeah, like beep him out every time he talks, like his every third word. We're gonna have to do like a live shot in this new bar coming up. April 4th, I think, is when they open. Yeah, it's called The Roost, Fair Oaks Ranch. Y'all check it out when it opens. It is the old Conroy's. It is going to be badass. Like, it is the spot. I can't wait till it opens, and I'm going to have to get like frequent flyer miles to the nearest hotel because that's so. Explain to us, like, this is for agents too. So, like, when an agent gets an investor that calls them and he's like, I want to build a rental portfolio, there's certain things that come into play, like cap rates, things like that. So when you're talking to investors, whether a realtor brings them to you or not, what rental investors, what do they look for when they buy a property?
Yeah, that's a good question. I get that one a lot. What I always tell an owner or investor, what you want to do is look for good school districts. We're a military city, obviously, so you want to be close to a base. And I tend to stay away from the really big houses. I think that the smaller kind of starter homes are what's going to lease the fastest because they're going to have a little bit lower rents. Investors will sometimes come to us with a 3,000 square foot house. And that's great. We'll take it on and we'll market the heck out of it. But here's the thing. It takes sort of a special type of family that's moving to the area to need something like that, to need that space. But a lot of times, there can be a young family that's moving here and they might be military, moving to the city, and they just need a little starter home. So yeah, good school districts, close to a base, and keep it a little smaller.
So, and I think that's really important to note because I bet, and I don't know this personally, I don't deal in the investment side of it too much. I mean, I've had a couple of rentals over the course of my life. I'm down to one that I manage myself just as my brother lives there. But when you look at rental properties, when 2021, 2022 hit, did y'all have a tenancy issue with the amount of people that were buying because of rates?
Yeah, I mean, it always fluctuates, it's just kind of an ebb and flow all the time. So, I mean, it wasn't necessarily an issue in 2021, 2022. It's just kind of a steady ebb and flow, if that makes a lot of sense. Because it's consistently not consistent. So that's the way I like to describe it.
So for people, I don't know too much about property management, I'll be completely honest. So if I was an investor, essentially, let's say I buy this house. I see a lot of people buying new builds right now, for example, and try to invest in. So in a sense, I just turn it over to you guys and y'all, in a sense, handle everything and I collect a paycheck every month. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah. So a lot of investors are coming to us with new builds because they're finding it more difficult. And you guys would probably know a little more about this than me, but they're finding a little more difficult to buy, say a pre-owned home versus a new build because builders are sort of, trying everything they can do to get rid of their inventory. So they're giving away the moon. So it's more cost effective for them to buy a new build. So they're coming to us, having it decked out, they're all smart homes at this time, basically. And we just take it over. It's so seamless and so easy. They close on the house. We already have the management agreement ready to go for their closing date. And boom, we get our photographer in there to get pictures done and get it on MLS. And then we do about 20 other platforms that we market to. And then, it's listed.
And those guys that are buying the new builds, I see a lot of volume buyers and they're probably running, and we're going to get into what a cap rate is, but in essence, a cap rate is the percentage of rents versus what you buy it for.
Right.
Does that sound correct?
Yeah, that's how I know it to be.
So they probably work off at a little lower cap rate because they're doing volume, correct?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I just had an investor come to me yesterday that is buying in volume in a particular community. Well, actually in a couple of different communities, but they were wanting to know what the most cost-effective community to buy in. So that was a project I was working on yesterday. But yeah, I mean, it sort of varies, to be honest, guys, because it's I have several people that it's just they're out of town, so either from California. I have a couple from Washington right now that they're like, hey, San Antonio is where you want to buy real estate to invest in. So they'll buy one house, see how that does, and then come to us and say, hey, we want to buy a second. So it's not really consistent where they're buying in bulk. I wish that were the case. That would make my job a lot more lucrative. But
yeah, we make a lot more money too.
but it's consistently not consistent.
So there's a lot of people out there that think they can manage properties, and I can tell you firsthand that I've managed two. I had one in Converse, and I've got one off WB White now, and it was it was just irritating because you're getting calls every day for every little thing. So what's the importance of a property manager, i.e. responsibilities like vetting, inspections, owner communication, owner protections? Like, what's the benefit of you taking that property, and what is your responsibility once you have possession of that property?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. A lot of owners will come to me because don't forget, because we are a military city, we have a lot of owners that right now it just doesn't make financial sense to sell. So they're getting PCS'd out, from in the military, they're getting transferred away, and it doesn't make sense to sell, or they have a great rate, they want to hold on to it as an investment. So they'll just say, hey, can you just list it and lease it for us? That is something that we do, but I always like to walk them through the process of what that's going to look like if they're going to manage it themselves, which is you have to know all the legalities, the ins and outs. I mean, we're not attorneys, of course. So definitely don't go give any kind of legal advice, but we do know the legal documentations and the processes it takes. Say, like if you have to go through an eviction, or just like you said, to protect yourself, things that we do to make sure that the house meets code, to protect the owners, different locking mechanisms. Are the fire extinguishers there? Are the smoke detectors working and all in sync? So yeah, there's a ton of stuff that you don't really think about when you think, oh, I can just self-manage this. One probably would think, well, I'll just call a plumber if they need a plumber, or call a handyman if something breaks. It's so much more than that. And in the meanwhile, you have to maintain that great relationship with the tenants to make sure that they want to stay, because every time that house turns over, you're losing money. So vetting process, and that's a whole other ball game. You definitely want to check for credit. Make sure that they have employment income, or income coming from their employment, meaning it's not any kind of government subsidies or coming from unemployment, because that can run out. You want to make sure they have 3 years of viable good rental history. You want to check sex offenders, make sure that they're not on that list. Criminal history. So there's a tons of things that you would need to check that I think just the average investor or owner is just not really going to think about, because that's just not their world. They have a different profession, and so no one expects them to be perfect at property management. So that's why you want to hire a professional.
So when I call Kristi Cote and say, hey, or your team and say, hey, I'm handing you a property, I want you to manage this for me, walk me through it. What do you do? Talk to me like I'm 5. Like, you're going to take this property and you're going to, like, what am I responsible for? What do I pay for? do I have to put money into a kitty for repairs? Like what? Walk me through what you're talking to me. Like, I'm going to give you a rental. What do you do?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I want to go and see the property. I want to just put eyes on the property and tell you, listen, I see that your dog chewed the blinds up right there. You might want to replace those. Whatever it is, it's going to make the house a little more attractive for potential renters. You want to do, and you're in that house every day, so you kind of don't see these things. A fresh pair of eyes is always good. Second, I would get you a management agreement. So that's just authorizing us to get a sign in the yard, a lockbox on the front door so that we can start marketing and showing your house. Once you've authorized that management agreement, what we're going to do is get our photographer in there and get photos taken. Photos are huge. A lot of people want to save money. You guys probably know this too. A lot of people want to save money and are like, I've got the newest iPhone. I can just take photos with my iPhone. It doesn't always work like that. So, professional photographers are called professionals for a reason. Let them get in there and take excellent, well-lit photos of your house because it's the potential renter's first impression.
And that's the property owner's responsibility.
That financially is the property owner's responsibility. We always have our recommendation on who we use, but they can use anyone, just probably not an iPhone.
My biggest pet peeve in real estate is getting someone to send me a house and the pictures are done with iPhone or a camera phone. And I'm just like, I say it all the time. If you hire a listing agent and they show up with a camera phone and they're taking pictures, you need to fire them immediately.
Yeah.
What happens if like a homeowner goes through all this process, take the pictures, get on the market? What happens if it doesn't rent out? What's the process there? Do we start to lower like the rent, or I guess where do you go from there?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that. So one of my jobs is sort of behind the scenes. What I do while a property is listed is just go through all the vacant properties that we have and say, how long has this property been vacant? Okay, it's been vacant 30 days. Let me just redo those comps and see, has everyone else in the neighborhood lowered their prices? So now suddenly we're the highest one. If we lower or make suggestions, I mean, we're never going to lower without talking to the owner first. But so we'll make suggestions on, hey, right now the comps are showing this number is probably the better number. So we'll get the permission, lower it. And if it still hasn't leased in about 45 days, I go over there and walk it. Does it smell musty or like a pet? Or, I mean, you know how when a house has been vacant for a little while, it starts to kind of take on a musty smell sometimes, unless it's just brand new. So I just go over there and troubleshoot what's going on, put some blade plugins in there, whatever I need to do to make sure that we get this leased. We also have, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but we have a dedicated licensed leasing agent on staff. And so while she's getting Zillow calls for other properties, if that one property isn't going to work that they called for, then she'll say, hey, you don't like an open floor plan. Let me take you to this listing over here of ours. This one is not so open. So you might like this one better. So she's doing her best to market also for us and, for the owners. So it's kind of, a double-sided marketing team because we're doing everything online, and then Martha is over there, marketing as well. So yeah,
It's
very cool.
similar to like listing a house.
Yeah.
Where you just, you follow the ebbs and flows of the market, you pay attention to comps, CMA, stuff like that, and then just communicate with the owner.
Yep.
So when you're listing a house, what does a typical fee look like from a seller or a property owner? What kind of fees do y'all charge for that? And how does that structure work when it comes to like repairs and stuff?
Yeah, so our fees are pretty simple. We try to keep it. I mean, Jason, he's not a complicated guy. So he said, let's keep this simple. So we charge 10% of 1 month's rent for just the everyday management fee. So 10% of 1 month's rent for your management fee, and that's monthly. When we lease your house out, anytime we lease it to anyone new, we're going to charge 50% of 1 month's rent. Now, that sounds like a lot to a lot of people, and I totally understand that. That goes toward all the marketing, all the showings that we have, contracts that we create, and then it also goes to pay a commission to the agent that brought us that tenant. So it does kind of cover a long span of things that we pay out. Then once your tenants have been there for, almost the duration of their lease term, we're going to redo those comps, do another CMA to see, has the market changed a little? Can we raise the rent a little, get you more money? Regardless, we'll renew those contracts and charge a 10% of 1 month's rent renewal fee. And then one last little thing, anytime those tenants submit a maintenance request, now we have a dedicated maintenance coordinator on staff too. He's awesome. He'll send the appropriate person out there for that particular job. Once that invoice comes in, we just have 10% maintenance coordination fee, which just means 10% on top of that invoice. So $50 invoice, you're paying $55. So
do y'all have like a cap where it's like, okay, look, we're not going to bother the seller for this. You know that if it's under $250, we're just going to send somebody.
Yeah. So that cap is $400. And that's really, a lot of owners will ask us, is there a startup cost? Are there, startup fees that we have to do? And there's not. The only thing that we ever ask you to sort of pay up front is that $400 toward the maintenance escrow. So we keep that in there so that, it has happened so many times. Say an agent goes to show the property's vacant, agent goes to show it, and they notice, hey, that toilet is constantly running. So we get someone out there right away to fix it instead of, getting on the phone with the owner and, hey, we need $100 right now to pay that invoice. We just take it out of that $400, and then we replenish it the next time those tenants pay the rent. So it's very rare that besides that $400 that an owner is going to have to come out of pocket to pay for anything.
So when you got a tenant in there and they get to a point where they're not paying their rent, what are some of the eviction laws and guidelines y'all have to follow as a property manager to start the process of getting them out of there to protect your client?
I hate this. So the tenants have until the 2nd of the month to pay. If they haven't paid, our property managers will give them a document that says, hey, listen, we're going down to file eviction if you haven't paid within this particular time. If they still haven't paid, we go down and file eviction. It's so unfortunate and I hate it, but it is to protect the owners. The tenants will give you that's why I'm not good at that particular job, because I'm just a softie and I'm like, oh my gosh, he lost his job. I feel so bad for him. But that's why they do. Luis and Alexa do their job so well. So if the owner wants to work with those people, it's pretty rare, but we'll work with them. If not, then we go through that eviction process. The owner will never have to go to court. We will go in their place and represent them. 99.9% of the time, the judge rules in the owner's favor. They've got 5 days to get out of the house. If they haven't gotten out of the house, then a constable will come and forcibly remove them from the house.
What's the turnaround
so rare
time
that
on
anything
that?
like that happens. So,
what's the turnaround time on the eviction?
Oh, that's 30 days or so. Texas is pretty pro owner. So unlike a lot of other states, yeah, it's about 30 days, unless
30
they
days
want to
a
really
month?
be difficult and, have a constable forcibly remove them, then I would say 45. But yeah, about 30 days.
Do y'all ever show up if anybody had like weapons or anything like that, trying to not leave their house? You ever had to deal with anything like that?
That's what the constable's for. Now, I would say that, Jason would probably like to get in on that,
I was gonna say that.
yeah, if anybody's going to show up with a weapon, it'll be Jason. No, I'm kidding.
He'll be the
No,
one with the
First
weapon, not
one,
the
like,
owner.
I'll just go get him out. It's fine.
yeah. He's like, I'll take care of it. No, yeah, we let the professionals handle that. Like, we're super good at property management and they're really good at law enforcement. So we'll just let them do their thing and just get those tenants out.
So with regards to, a lot of people that I talk to that get into the portfolio side of it, the investment side of it, their biggest concern is squatters.
Yes.
That's different though than a tenant being evicted.
Yeah.
And so I think
Right,
there's
it
different
is.
laws. What are the impacts of that on your industry and how do you kind of curb that?
Yeah, so there are a few little tricks of the trade to try to prevent squatters. One of the things is you just have to know your area. I mean, it's pretty rare that you're gonna have a house in, I don't know, say Stone Oak or Timberwood Park or some of those types of neighborhoods where you're gonna get a squatter. It's going to be, in different socioeconomic demographic areas. So if we have a house like that, which is absolutely fine, we just sort of take these different measures. First of all, you want to put up a no trespassing sign because that's going to protect you legally if you have to call the police and have them forcibly removed. You want to make sure that the grass is mowed all the time. So it's going to make it look like it's not an abandoned house.
Right.
The lockbox that we typically just put on a front door, you might want to put that on the spigot on the side of the house or, on the gate or even in the back of the house if you have to. You definitely don't want to put a for lease sign up in the yard. So you just take those little measures just to make sure that the house looks like it might be lived in. And then, we've even gone to a couple of the neighbors around these houses and handed out our cards and said, hey, listen, this house is for lease. Just wanted to let you know if you happen to see anyone that looks like they're not a real estate agent showing their clients this property, will you please just give us a call? So, yeah. And honestly, I was just talking to Jason about this the other day, and he said in his 20 years in business, he has had 2 squatters this entire time. So it's not as common as what you would think. I think it might be more common in some other states where they're not going to take some drastic measures to remove them. But yeah, not super common here. But I do get that question a lot because investors are very, very concerned about squatters. So
yeah, I dealt with that. So I've been in business 7 years and I've sold around 400 homes and I've only had to deal with it once. And it was just literally just recently. And it was a friend of mine's dad, his brother passed away and he owned a house in a very, an older, lower demographic neighborhood. And the house was just, it was a mess. And the girlfriend of the brother was living there and she started squatting, moved in a friend. They were cooking meth there. We were trying to buy it as a flip. No, I didn't buy it.
Oh, I thought you meant you're buying meth.
No. So we were trying to buy it as a flip. We couldn't get inside of it. And then when they found out that he was starting the process, that he's an old school guy. He went over there, basically threw some threats at him and didn't work, but they kind of caught on. He was going to sell it. They started destroying everything, ripping walls out, breaking windows.
Oh my God.
We couldn't even buy it because it was just so bad. So y'all are on the long-term rental side and, San Antonio is kind of becoming a hotbed for the vacation rental type, the Airbnb, the VRBO, stuff like that, especially in the downtown area, the Pearl, those types of areas. What, in your professional opinion, having been doing this for a while, when you look at short-term versus long-term, what is the advantage of going long-term versus short-term and vice versa, really, in terms of financial return, in terms of permitting? Because I know there's special zoning, special permitting. What do you see on that side of it?
Yeah, so I've done both. I've managed short term and long term, and actually did them both at the same time at one point in my career. And I really liked the short term. I will say that I liked the fast paced of the short term. Okay, let's get it ready for the next guest, and is all of this done? And that's just how I operate. Is just I don't do anything slow. So I really liked that aspect of it. The short terms, though, in order to be one of the best, you have to maintain this excellent customer service, meaning you have to be on call basically 24/7, because if that guest, something happens where the cable goes out, or the TV isn't working, you have to respond within an hour. They can call you at midnight, and you need to be very responsive to get to that superhost status. So that poses challenges for a management company managing the short terms. Now, I mean, there are a lot out there that do them and do them well. But you just have to have the staff to be able to be willing to basically be on call 24/7. Now, the advantages, economically, short-term versus long-term, I would say long-term is going to probably, depending on where you are, probably going to be consistently more lucrative over, the long-term. Short terms, though, it takes a dip. I have some very good friends of mine that have, they have like 5 properties, and just last summer it really took a dip. And I guess because of economics, they're just, people are not traveling as much. Yeah, so what happened was all of these short-term rental owners were calling me and saying, please, I'm going to take all of my furniture out. Can you please list it for a long-term? So we had about 15,000 houses, San Antonio, not us, but 15,000 houses last summer on the rental market. And a lot of those were short-term rentals. So,
and you're probably busier, I would imagine. You're probably busier now with rates being higher. With people saying, you know what, I just want to jump in a rental real quick and let's see everything settle down.
Yeah. And I mean, as it has been not so good for you guys, trying to sell homes, I'm like, hey, keep those rents high, because that's great for my business. But no, honestly, it's not, because, there are a lot of people, like owners, that can't sell their properties, that they come to us and say, can you rent it out until the market changes a little so we can sell it? And that's great. But when the market changes, then we'll have a lot more investors coming to us saying, hey, I'm buying up a bunch of these properties because the market is so great. Then can you put them on, the long-term rental market for us? So really, either way, regardless of the market, it's a win-win for us, because people are always looking for new ways to, generate income. So yeah, we're in a great business.
So we talked about cap rate earlier, and one of the things that I think people don't understand is what a cap rate is. And obviously I gave a dumbed up version of it. It's a percentage of the rents versus what you pay for it. What in San Antonio, generally, what are you seeing as the average cap rate, so that realtors, when they know to look for that, what are you seeing right now on average cap rate?
Yeah. So are you talking about, are you wanting sort of an average rental price? Is that what you're asking?
Kind of like people use the 1% rule. Is that what you're talking about?
The 10%. Well, so I've always known it as a 10% rule.
10% rule.
A 10% cap rate is a tremendous, like that's a hell of a return on a rental property. But I've always known the average to be somewhere between 7 and 9%. So if you buy the property for say $200,000 and you're getting somewhere between 1,700 and 1,900, that's a win. I mean, that's a 8 to 9% cap rate. Is that about the average in terms of what I'm talking about?
Yeah, in terms of what you're talking about, yes, I would say that that's about the average. Right now, I mean, I'm seeing, yeah, investors will buy $250,000 homes, which, in this day, they're not, huge homes, but great little investment starter homes. And yeah, they'll be $1,700 a month, maybe 19, depending on, what the house looks like. So yeah, not too bad at all. I mean, rents did go down a little bit in, I guess last summer, when we had so many on the market, but yeah, they're staying steady. So I'm seeing a steady climb.
Okay.
What's again, I don't know if you know this or not, like the average day on market for a rental right now, like for homes, it's like 70 days for a listing sitting in the market. What is it for rentals right now?
Yeah, the average days on market, get ready for this, is between 30 and 70 days.
Okay.
So in the comps that I've been doing lately, I have seen that going down. So, about 45 days. I hate to even promise that to any owners though. So I always tell the owners expect about 70 days on the market.
Yeah, so it's been about in line with listings as well. So I didn't know if it was like way different or about the same. So that's good to know it's about the same.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds like it is.
That's kind of what we see on the listing side. A lot of it depends on your price point too. I mean, I think they probably see on the rental side too, is obviously the cheaper ones, they go faster. And it's people trying to reel back a little bit to get a little more control of their finances. They're prepping to potentially purchase and they want to save some money. So trying to find, I've got friends that are renting, 1,400 square foot houses right now. And they got 2 kids and they're like, this is super tight, but it's $1,400 a month or $1,500 a month. And like, this lets me save.
Yeah.
So
put
up more capital for a potential purchase.
Big time. I know. And, I think really and truly, school districts, like I said earlier, and location are more important right now to families than the size of the house. So, I mean, I know me, I have a 12-year-old daughter. I'm right where I want to be because I'm right in the exact school district. That's great for her. And, my house is not over 2,000 square feet. So I'm just fine because location is the key for me. So I feel like I'm hearing that from a lot of families.
Yeah, I wish sometimes I kick myself in the ass for selling my Converse house because I was getting stupid around that place. And I think I bought it for like 100. I bought in 2011, 12-ish. I bought a brand new Meritage house off of 1604 in Lower Seguin Road. I paid $160,000 for it. I was there for 2 years. And this is important for VA buyers to understand because I was a VA buyer at that time. Like I obviously a veteran. If you're a VA buyer and you stay in that property for 2 years or so, you can buy another home and leave that under your VA and use your remaining eligibility up to a certain amount to buy another one and rent that property out, which is what I did. I had a stupid low rate and I had a tenant in there they were active duty military and I think I was getting like $1,800 a month, which was, stupid to think of then, but it was a 2,000 square foot house.
Yeah.
And I've got a friend that's renting in that same subdivision, almost the exact same floor plan. And he's getting like $2,400 a month. And
isn't that crazy?
It's insane. And it was funny because like when my tenants moved out, they wanted to buy the house and I wanted to sell it, but then they built a house behind us in this newer part of the subdivision. And I was kind of contemplating what I was going to do. And right in the middle of all this, we had a real bad water leak. So I had to go get cabinets replaced, countertops, yada, yada, yada. And we're packing them up and they're getting ready to leave. And they're like, man, we're really going to miss this place. And I'm like, you're going to a much nicer house. Yeah, but this is where, this is where we had our daughter. I'm like, oh yeah, what hospital? She's like, no, they're like, but here. I'm like, you had your kid where? She's like, yeah, we had it in the house. I was like, where? We're in the living room. And she was a midwife. And she had it in a blow-up pool on a tarp in my living room. And I was like, I don't know what to think about that. I won't be renting this out again. I will go ahead and sell it because this is weird to me.
All right.
But it worked out. We sold it for a really good price. Shane was actually my listing agent, surprisingly. Sold it really fast, and it worked out great. But Kristi, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I know this is a long time coming. We've been trying to set something up for a while. You're doing great stuff over there. I know Jason speaks very highly of you, and as you know, Jason and I go way back, and he's a great dude. And one day we'll get him on an unedited version of this podcast, maybe at the Roost. But how can people find you?
Yeah, so you can go to our website, which is trueassetmanagement.com, or you can email me at, I'm going to spell out my name because it's the most unusual name to spell it, Kristi at tru-am.com. Or just call me. I mean, I'm always happy to take calls. I'm a bit of a workaholic, and I kind of never stop. So I'm always happy to take calls. So
well, then you'll fit it right. You're going to fit in great with Jason because that's what he is. Kristi, thank you very much for coming on, and I do expect to have you on again sometime in the very near future to go over some different things in the property management world. But again, we really appreciate it, and take care.
Thank you so much, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
So that was pretty cool. It was cool to be able to get the experience of like what goes into the property management side, because there's so much, I think, that people have questions about. And when you're diving into portfolio buying or setting up a portfolio for, like, let's say you're, like I'm of the mindset where like I want to buy a house for my kid, each one of my kids, so that when they turn 18, they can make a decision. Do you keep it and keep generating revenue? Yeah. You sell it, keep the equity, pay for college, whatever. I feel like it's a good investment. That's what I did with the W White house. That's why I regret selling the Converse house. So I thought it was pretty cool to have her on and kind of go over that. So you have a topic that you want to talk about that I have a unique experience with. Let's talk about that.
So one of the things I've been getting here lately, just with a lot of military buyers and honestly a lot of people who bought in the last couple of years, they're being sold solar panels, and they always ask like, hey, is there any issues with me selling my solar panels? Do you think the buyers would take over payments? How many of you buyers out there would actually take over $40,000 solar panels with a house that's maybe a year old that has zero equity in it? I'm at some point like, no, I mean, you're kind of stuck with this house at this point, or you're going to lose, you're going to have to pay to sell your house. I haven't had any actual listings go on the market with the solar panels because I tell them like, look, you have to rent it out. You have to figure something out because, I mean, there's most of the time buyers are not going to be willing to take over a payment on a solar panel. So they're either going to have to pay for those solar panels at closing, seller's going to have to pay for those at closing, or you're going to have to keep the house. You said you had a unique experience with it?
So I've had a ton of experience with it. There's a couple of things I think people need to keep in mind when they add solar panels. And I know that as soon as this posts, we're going to have 15 million solar panel salesmen message us. Yeah. And so I'm just going to give you,
my door.
Yeah, they're little scooters. So I'm just going to give you a general rundown of some of the circumstances that I've come up with or I've come across. For one, if you're paying cash for solar panels, that's one thing. I think there is a return there. And I think I sat down one day and I did some math, and I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but I believe it was like it takes somewhere around 9 to 11 years, somewhere in there, for the average solar panel to be able to produce enough power to offset what you're paying for it. Mm-hmm. I think it's somewhere around there. The average homeowner owns the home for 5 to 7 years. So if you're buying the home and your plan is to stay there forever, then okay, I can see it. You're going for the long-term investment, but you got to understand the warranty is 20 years or so. When then something breaks, you got to replace it. Here's what people don't understand. And I'm not talking about production homes because I don't know those builders that well and I can't talk to their warranties, but I would imagine they're similar to like custom specs. You go talk to an electrician. You go talk to a roofing contractor, and a lot of them will tell you the same thing, that the minute you drill into their roof, you void your warranty. The minute you start playing with the electrical, modifying the electrical to add solar panels, you void your electrical warranty. So is that a risk you really want to take? Is it worth it? Some people would say yes, because of the long-term potential return on solar panels. But you got to keep in mind that solar panels could cost you anywhere between $20,000 and $30,000. Yes, there are programs out there that save you money and rebates.
They're getting more expensive. I was going to stop you right there. I had somebody who bought some last year. He's been paying on them for about a year. He said he owes $48,000 in solar panels.
So you need $48,000 of more equity to sell that house. Like, it's, especially if it's not a long-term thing. So I would tell you this, if you have someone knock on your door and they say, hey, Chris, they won't knock on my door. That's not going to go well for them. If you have someone knock on your door and they say, hey, I want to sell you solar panels, the first thing that I would tell you is call either your realtor or call your builder and say, hey, I'm interested in this. This is a potential interest that I have. What long-term effects does it have? What does it do to my house in terms of equity? Do I have enough equity to cover this if something happens and I have to sell? Or the roofer, find out who built your roof, or find out who, if it's Lennar or DR Horton or a custom builder, find out who built your roof and ask them, are you going to protect, are you going to cover the warranty if something happens? On your insurance side too, and I can bring on insurance agents, I can bring on roofers. I can tell you on the insurance side, it's much more expensive to replace your roof, and your deductible will be higher, or your out of pocket expenses could be higher, because sometimes they will not pay to remove the solar panels. Now, I've heard of circumstances where solar panel companies they'll come out and they'll remove them for you if you have to change your roof for whatever reason. But there's a lot of cost involved with that. That you got to be careful with, because solar panels are a long-term play. I had a client that was very big into solar panels. He owned 50 acres in Lavernia, and he generated enough electricity that his bill was $0 for electricity. It ran his well, it ran his house. It was a pretty big house, ran a guest house, shops, stuff like that. And so it worked out for him, but he paid cash. And he had a ton of equity in the house already because he's owned the house for 20 something, 30 years. And so that makes sense. Because
let me cut you off there. So the guy that I was talking about to yesterday, again, he called in, wants to sell his house. He's military, moving. Obviously, he didn't put any money down. He said he's paying $260 a month on his solar panels and about $150 a month on his electricity.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm like, you got screwed. Like, and that's not even a new home. I think it's like a couple years old. But
how big's the house?
It's like 2,400 square feet, decent sized home.
That's just crazy to me. Like, that's why I'm saying, like,
well, he said, I didn't know this about solar panels, but he said that they, I guess, cover different amounts. He said it's supposed to be 80% of his bill. I'm like, 48,000 cover 80% of your bill. That's horrible.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just look at your monthly breakdown. Yeah. Your monthly bill. We'll use my house for example. My house is 2,700 square foot, and we run the air conditioner cold. Like, I can't sleep unless it's 69, 70 degrees in my bedroom, and fans are going. I know where you're going with that. And my average utility bill peak is $350. Okay, that's not a pretty big house. That's with me officing out of my house and all my electronics and all that stuff. And my kids and wife do not turn lights off. That is a thing in my house. It drives me crazy, but they don't.
In every house.
100%. So if my bill is $350, he's paying $250 and $160. His bill is more than mine.
Yeah.
And he was never planning on being there long term.
No, he's only been there no. He bought it last May.
Yeah, so it's going to be so hard to sell that house because you got no equity because you didn't put anything down. So you're instantly out of it. And even if you did put something down, it's not really equity. It's getting back what you put into it. Yeah, that when you're buying solar panels, you're looking at solar panels, be very damn careful. And remember, that solar panel company works for the solar company. Yeah. Their job is to sell you, and they are trained to be aggressive. Talk to an electrician, talk to somebody that you know that has experience in dealing with that, whether it be a realtor, roofer, builder, preferably an electrician, because they'll tell you. Like, I have a buddy of mine that can go over exact voltage, like how all that stuff works. He's like, it's unless you do this, it's not worth it, but then the cost is this. So it's like, that's something that I try to tell people to steer clear of.
Yeah.
Because again, if you're not doing this on a long-term play, or you don't find some sort of government rebate that I know at some point you could get them for free with this rebate program.
Credits, but again, how long?
And how long does it take to get them? and then what's left over, and how long is it going to take for you to recoup that money? That's a very touchy subject, and it's something you see a lot in San Antonio. And just so you know, solar panels do not add value to your house.
Mm-mm.
It may add some buyers appeal, but most buyers don't give a damn. And so solar panels are kind of like pools. Like you can see some bump in value if there's consistency in the neighborhood. If there's several in the neighborhood and it shows that buyers are willing to pay a little bit more, they can use those comps. But for the most part, they do not add value to your house.
We need to bring a appraiser on the show.
Good, I get Kyle. He's a little down right now because he had a little mishap at his house. But anyways, I'll get him. I'm gonna talk to Kyle. Kyle, if you're listening, I'm gonna get your ass on the show. There is a article floating around right now that pisses me off. And this is going to kind of fall right into another topic that we're going to discuss. And this article came out on Channel 4, came out on Tuesday, March 12th. And it said that basically San Antonio buyers need to earn nearly $100,000 a year to purchase a home. So I just want to first and foremost say that came from Zillow, some analysis, that's absolutely bullshit. It's absolutely bullshit. You don't need to earn 100. I'm under contract right now with someone that makes $55,000 a year.
I was going to say, I just helped a nurse who's single. She has kids, but she earns like $60,000 a year. She was able to buy a house over $300,000. And again, I don't necessarily know how much to make, but it is very well possible. Like, I don't know why they came out with that.
This is the problem. I need to be very careful here because we are realtors that utilize certain platforms. But this is the problem with, I would say, media in general and how they portray things, because Zillow is pulling an overarching nationwide average. So you have different demographics in there. So maybe in California and in your super expensive the West Coast, the Northeast, the Northwest, maybe there you need to make $100,000, but in San Antonio and your general demographics, you don't need to make $100,000. And that's where the media, I think, like Channel 4, like that was a stupid article to post because that does not impact San Antonio. That is not indicative of what our market is, or South Texas, or even Texas in general. And it's engagement. It's all it is. They post that stuff to get engagement. When I saw it was like 287 shares. And that, I think, is where I have such a problem with media in general, because it's not about accurate reporting. It's not about providing accurate data. It's about getting you to react, whether it's negative or positive. Jerry Jones, the owner of Dallas Cowboys, he's a pro at this, and it drives a lot of people crazy, but they'll tell you bad media is better than good media.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because you get more engagement. You get more people. When people are angry, they want to respond more. When you're happy about it, you just scroll through and you just keep on going.
Yeah.
But they post this crap because it gets them the engagement they need. And it started, people forget, they don't understand kind of how this started. This actually kind of started back in like the early 90s. And I remember this specifically because it started in sports journalism. I always wanted to be a writer. I did some stuff when I was in the military. I got out of the military.
You learned how to read first.
Well, pop-up books. I do pop-up books. And then ChatGPT is great too. So I just, but when I was in the military, I did some writing for different groups and organizations that covered NFL and college football. And I go back to the 90s because, in the early 90s, going into the early 2000s, before that, for as long as we remember, journalism was about integrity, standards, reporting the facts, whether you like them or not. Skip Bayless. Everybody knows, if you follow sports, you know who Skip Bayless is. He's a loudmouth shock jock.
Come on, Skip.
Yeah, that he wrote an article. He wrote a book. I believe it was a book in the early 90s about Troy Aikman being gay. It went nuts.
I bet.
And of course, Troy Aikman, Super Bowl winning quarterback, and it put Skip Bayless on the map. He went from Dallas Morning News, I believe it was, to ESPN. Now he's this big figurehead that makes all this money, even though his viewership is horrible on ESPN or on Fox Sports, I think it is now.
Yeah.
His engagement that brings to FS1, the engagement it brings to his social media platforms is what keeps him employed, because he makes millions off the engagement.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what sports journalism turned into. And that bled over into national media, local media, where I'm going to partake in engaging a specific ideology, whatever you want to call it. That goes for both sides of the aisle. And not even to get political. It's just, hey,
Logan Paul right now. Logan,
Jake Paul.
Jake Paul. It's like everybody freaking hates him, but they watch him.
They watch him
They
because
don't stop watching
hate garnishes attention and engagement.
Yeah.
And that's where I look at, like, you know, obviously cancel culture is so bad, but, you know, demonetizing like stuff like that. I don't know how you do these things without, you know, screwing with the Constitution and the rights that we have.
Yeah.
But you look at how it impacts people every day. People are dying. Countries are going to war over bad media. And if you think I'm wrong, just look at the Israel-Hamas conflict.
Yeah.
Go look at the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Go look at the Middle East. Look at the entire time we were in Iraq. I can tell you a story about a time that I was in Iraq. We went into Fallujah too. We were with the 2nd Marines, and Fallujah was a hot mess. Like, it was like probably one of the scariest times in my entire deployment. I believe it may have been Fallujah 1. Anyways, we're in Fallujah, and I remember being with a group that was with the 2nd Marines, and they were clearing a building. And this was the first time we ever had a media crew embedded with us. And this was like right before the surge, it's 2005, 2006. And we never had media with us before. Because when we landed boots on the ground, it was like, you go, you do, you walk with a hammer fist. Like, it is what it is. When the media got there, it changed. Rules of engagement changed. Everything changed because now they were taking and they were portraying us as monsters. Look, there were some bad guys doing some bad things, but all in all, we did our job. We did what we were supposed to do. And this Marine, he engaged a 2nd story window, and several of them did. Several of us did. We, as a group, we managed to neutralize the situation. Take that for what you want. They went in to clear the building, and the camera crew followed, and he went on the 2nd floor. There was a wounded Iraqi, I believe it was the Mahdi army. Anyways, there was a wounded enemy combatant, and one of the Marines shot him, killed him. And there was a gun about maybe 12, 15 inches away from him.
Yeah.
Well, the footage that came out showed no weapon.
So it just showed him killing somebody.
And unarmed. And that's the type of stuff that, look, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
You know what you're doing by editing this stuff because you're going to create conflict and engagement. And that turned a lot of the politicians against us and said, okay, well, now we're going to change it really bad. Like, it got to the point where you couldn't engage someone unless you were shot at, and you could identify who shot. Doesn't matter if they were armed. If you couldn't for sure tell that they shot at you, you could not engage them. That's what media has turned into. And it goes in the real estate industry, it goes in the sports industry, it goes into the political mindset, it goes into the weapons industry. I mean, it covers everywhere you look. It's all about engagement. So I feel like at some point there should be some journalistic standard where they can be held accountable for what they say and what they do. You look at some of the lawsuits, the Covington kid, obviously that was not disclosed, but he won a massive lawsuit. There are so many things that need to be done. I wish there was some sort of licensing process for journalists to maintain their integrity.
They probably do have one, but they just don't follow it.
Well, and you think like there's a group, a government watch group that, you know, monitors
like a track.
Yeah, but there's a group that monitors language on TV.
Oh yeah.
So like, you know, you can't say things where they got to beep it out, like
social media. And all that. Yeah.
But they don't have that on social media because they can get on there and say whatever the hell they want. But if you're on live TV, you can't say certain things because whatever the FAA is airlines, but something like that. But that's where we've gotten to with the United States. In our country is that you see articles like this and the amount of people on there that were like, I can't believe that. I'm like, that is 100% not true. Not even close. There are places all over this country you can buy houses making $40,000, $50,000 a year.
Yeah.
Does it help making $100,000? Hell yeah, it helps. You can buy more. But there's so many options out there for you for first-time home buyers and FHA loans. And
there's some new construction that homes for under $200,000.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't know where they're coming up with this $100,000. You could almost buy the home cash. Just if you had like $60,000 more, you're definitely going to be able to get a loan. I don't know why they came up with this nonsense, but it's just the media. It's election year. They're going to try to push a certain type of agenda like they always do, but you just got to push through and keep putting out the truth. That's all there is to it. Just keep putting out the truth and guiding people in the right direction and making sure that we're taking care of people properly, not caring about just the almighty dollar, but actually caring about the people. And that's what we do all the time.
Yeah.
So,
you have some sports stuff that you want to talk about. And I'm interested to hear your point on this. Let's cover the San Antonio Brahmas.
So again, we're big football fans, right? I mean, I think you are at least. But,
a little obsessive.
So we're pretty big football fans. I literally watch football from high school all the way up. It's a little weird, but anyway, I'm a huge football fan. But honestly, I haven't even watched the Brahma game. That's just how I am. It's like, to me, I'm like, it's not a real team yet. So I was bringing it up as, how long do you think they'll actually stay in San Antonio this time around? Because how many times have we had are they called pro or semi-pro, or how would we?
I would guess you would call them semi-pro.
I really don't know, to be honest. XFL, if you guys don't know. But how long do you think they'll stick around in San Antonio?
Well, you have the San Antonio Gunslingers, which is another somewhat semi-pro sports league.
Are they still around as well?
They're still around. A friend of mine's parents own it. I don't think San Antonio can support a pro football team, a pro anything team.
Just because we don't have enough fans?
Well, because it's such a diverse community that there's a lot of people that just don't follow sports here, but they're so heavy on either Texans or Cowboys. I remember was it 2005 when Katrina hit? We had to go to New Orleans with my unit to help search and rescue, but they brought the Saints to play in the Alamo Dome, and the house was packed. And I remember the two sports radio channels in all of San Antonio were talking about, we can support it. The problem is that both of those sports radio channels went to hell because people didn't listen to them, because people weren't as engaged about it. And a lot of people will say, well, that'll change if you bring a sports team to San Antonio. It won't change. You look at the Spurs. The Spurs were massively followed in the 90s and early 2000s because they were winning championships. But it was also a very small market team. They couldn't bring in the big name free agents. They couldn't do those things. They had to grow it.
I'm already went out. I don't know if you saw that or not.
I heard a rumor about that. I don't think he does. I think somebody made a big deal on ESPN about he should demand a trade.
Oh, okay.
But they built through the draft and they won through the draft. And when they fell off, guess what? Viewership is down. The seating, people in the stands, you go watch the Spurs game. Even like they're not there.
I mean, you can get almost like, we went to a Spurs game a month ago. We got, I wouldn't say floor seats, but
we were pretty close.
Good seats for like $140.
I don't even know what they paid for them, but you look around that stadium and there were seats empty everywhere. And it was a pretty good game. I don't even think the Spurs won.
No,
yeah. But so that's where I say, no, you could not support a pro football team. You can't even support a pro sports radio channel. Like, there are some guys in San Antonio, RJ Ochoa, different guys that do, Joe Reinagle, that do sports radio, but they're not connected. Like, they do, like, RJ's big into the Blogging the Boys, which I've got my quirks with them, but they're a good organization and they put out some pretty good content, but they don't have the connections with the team. You're not going to compete with the larger market radio shows, the fan in Dallas and the ticket in Dallas who has that access. Sure, will you get that access if a pro sports team comes here? Yeah, but you're a small market. You don't have a stadium for it. You don't have parking for it. You don't have an area for it. There's even talk about the Spurs leaving San Antonio and going to Austin or somewhere in between San Antonio and Austin. So could you do a mega metroplex team of San Antonio and Austin? Potentially, but I still don't think the market could support it. One, I don't think Jerry Jones or the McNairs would allow it. And two, I don't think you can support it because I'm a diehard Cowboys fan. And second to that, I would probably watch the Texans. I'm not going to switch my allegiance. Most sports people, they won't switch their allegiance to a team just because it's local. Like, I know a lot of people, you go to a Dallas game and there is a lot of random fans in there. That's just the nature of the business. So no, I don't think San Antonio, I don't think this is sustainable. They've tried it before. It didn't work. I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think the people moving here care about it. I think they're more like, whatever, just leave me alone. Let me do my thing.
I feel like it's like a novelty. Like, it's just like, hey, we got a team over here, but I feel like at least not anytime soon. It's not going to take off. But I feel like if it lasts more than like 5 years, then maybe. But we'll just have to see what happens with that. But like I said, it's kind of like before UTSA was here. We're all Longhorn fans or A&M fans. UTSA's been around for what, 10 years now?
I think 7 or 8 years.
Close to, and I'm still a UT fan, no matter what. Even though I do go to UTSA games, but if they're playing each other, definitely go for UTSA.
I went to the UTSA Texas game in Austin and watched Texas beat the hell out of them. That was great. It was a little scary in the first half, but
it was close at halftime.
But no, I don't think San Antonio could sustain a large sports franchise, whether it be baseball. Hell, they can't even hardly sustain basketball. I mean, the naming rights on the stadium here has changed 3 times already. So
we did have a hockey team.
the Iguanas back in the 90s. Yeah, we had the San Antonio Iguanas. You don't remember? Oh, you weren't around then.
Who's that?
Wait, that was our hockey team in like the 90s. No, it used to be called the San Antonio Iguanas.
I've never
Yeah, like in the early 90s. I went to a couple of their games. It was pretty cool, like watching hockey fights and stuff.
Yeah, I remember the Rampage, and then Rampage left. They went to Las Vegas, and then they won the whole championship.
That's the Vegas. That's the Vegas Knights are the San Antonio Rampage. Yeah. Are you kidding me?
I could be wrong, but now I get a fact check.
He's probably wrong.
But I know they went to Las Vegas.
CNN is going to fact check the shit out of you right now.
Maybe they are their
expansion team,
or something
like that. Or their minor league team or whatever.
Yeah, but I know they went to Las Vegas.
I want to go to Las Vegas. I'm going to Las Vegas for my 40th.
What?
I'm going to Las Vegas for my 40th.
I thought you were already 40.
I'm 39, sir. I've got some time.
What do you got? June?
July 19th. I'll be in Vegas. I'll be watching the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight from somewhere in Vegas.
We're going to that fight
in Dallas.
Yeah,
I don't envy that because that's the biggest crack of bullshit. But
he's making money.
That's exactly right. Some news and notes from the Dallas Cowboys. Free agent
trades, right? We picked up some people.
We got a linebacker from the Chargers, Kendrick. Michael Kendricks, I think his name is. I totally just blanked on his name. They're looking at AJ Dillon, former running back from the Green Bay Packers. I know they're in talks with him. Everybody freaked out because Dallas didn't do anything, but nobody realizes that free agency didn't start till yesterday afternoon. Yeah. And as soon as it did, they signed the linebacker.
You need a running back.
But everybody was like, well, they didn't tamper. Well, you don't know that. You don't know. They're pretty good at keeping that stuff to their chest. And we don't know what they tampered for, but you look at some of the free agents that signed in the early signing period, the tampering period, they didn't actually sign. They negotiated deals, overpaying. I mean, the cap went up more, about $20 million more than we expected, which freed up a lot of money for teams. So they're able to pay more. So I'm still not worried about them. You know, you get a running back, you got the linebacker. I said it before. You need a running back, you need a linebacker, you need a defensive tackle.
A corner.
Well, you just signed. They just came to terms with Jordan Lewis.
Oh, I didn't see that.
So now they need to secure, a veteran outside corner. But you've got Jordan Lewis, you got Deron Bland, you got Trayvon Diggs coming back. If you can bring back the guy you had last year, which I totally blanked on his name, with the long hair, Stephon Gilmore, which I think he's still on the table. I think Tyron Smith is not out the door yet. I did hear this morning that an Ezekiel Elliott return may not be off the table.
I saw that. I thought it was a rumor.
I would be awesome. I would love that.
Yeah, I never wanted him to go.
Give him a chance to retire, but I think he'd make a hell of a backup to, a quality draftable running back. You've got 4 or 5 running backs that I think could go in the top 100.
What's his name from Florida State?
I can't remember his name, but you look at the kid from Michigan. I can't think of his name, but so there's some options out there for running back in the draft. Jonathan Brooks from Texas could go in the 3rd round, but
I forgot about him.
She should be ready to go by training camp. So I think things are looking fine right now. I mean, it's still early, very early. I'll probably get off this podcast and see 2 or 3 more things pop up, but
you think Worthy's going to go in the 1st round now?
I think he's a 2nd round guy. I got 4 wide receivers in the 1st round. I don't think he's one of them. Yeah. Although I do think he's better than Franklin.
Maybe Cowboys will pick him up.
Hey, that'd be. I don't know if I want to go Worthy. I mean, he'd be great to replace Cooks, but you still got Cooks for a year.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'll be looking at running at wide receiver next year. So, you got anything else?
No, that's it. That's really all that I had today.
Not a bad little second show. Hour and 15 minutes. Pretty good.
Third
show.
Yeah, I forgot about the other one. But yeah, we'll be back in maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think we're going to start speeding this up.
Have another one. We're going to bring some great information to you guys. Leave us some comments. Leave us some feedback. Let us know what you want to hear. Let us know who you want us to bring on, and we'll definitely get them on the show. Anything else before we go?
No, you like how we set up the studio? It's going to be a little bit different. We're trying to mix it up some to be a little more personable. We got some changes coming too, so I'm super excited, and I'm ready to rock and roll with this thing every 2 weeks if we can get this damn AC working. Shane and Clint would pay the damn electrical bill. It's hot as hell in here.
You got to call the owner.
And I'm wearing shorts. Anyway,
until next time, guys. Just One Word Podcast. See you guys later.